I can move around quite comfortably here without any risk of losing my balance. Now this kind of leads into principle number 2, which is the principle of circles. And this is a big one, plays so many parts in grappling in many different ways. If we imagine that this was the center of the ring, and this is the first principle of in-ring wrestling psychology that I ever learned back at the Monster Factory with Cole Devani 20 plus years ago. We had a big logo in the center of the ring, and he said, just imagine that there's a circle around it. So if we imagine there's a small circle around the middle of the ring, if you don't have a logo, just pretend it's there. Everything we do is around that circle. So if we're maybe circling at the start of a match, getting ready to lock up, as long as we keep tracking around that invisible circle, when we do lock up, we're always going to be dead center in the ring, which is important for many reasons. First one being, if everything is being done in the center of the ring, it means that all 4 sides of the crowd can see it. Second reason, this is the safest part of the ring, it's the softest part of the ring, it's got the most suspension, which means it not only looks and sounds good, but it feels a hell of a lot better too. So if we're going from a lock-up and we maybe start working through takedowns and things like that, we're looking after our partners here as well. Now this is a 90% rule, as everything is in wrestling. It doesn't mean that you can't work off center. Sometimes you're going to work to the ropes, the corners. Sometimes you might take a couple steps off, but you want to regain that center as best you can, as quickly as you can. So if we're using those effective steps, we're using circles, we're always going to end up in the right spot. If I've got a headlock on, if I've locked a headlock and I'm dead center in the ring, if I'm going to work that headlock, and I want to show different sides of the crowd what's going on, if I want to show Solomon's face, show his selling, then the same thing applies. I want to be working in that circle. And generally we go anti-clockwise in Western style pro wrestling. Doesn't mean you have to, but most of the time that works well. As soon as we start taking too many steps, working off the circle, now as I start moving around, we also end up closer to the ropes. Now what that's going to do eventually is it's going to force a rope break. Rope breaks can work if used effectively, but you want it to be on your terms. If your partner is close to the ropes and they don't grab it, they kind of look foolish, and if they do grab it, they kill the momentum of the sequence that you're running. So if you're in the middle, it just opens up a lot more options. And then if we do want to work towards ropes or corners, it's easy. We're right here in the center, we're working around. Solomon can start pushing me and working me back wherever he wants to place me. So where the principle of circles can also work is if you want to shift your opponent around the ring. So what often happens is, you might be trying to put your opponent in position for some sort of pinning combo, like a La Magistral or a submission, and you don't want to be too close to the ropes. You want to be as close to center as you can, but maybe they're off center. Now, the easiest way to move someone is not to drag their, carcass around the ring by the feet, not to drag them by the arms, but actually to turn them in circles. It's much easier, particularly if you're with a bigger opponent who's very difficult to move. So if we were slightly off center, let's say we were off the logo over this way just a little bit, and maybe I'm about to lock in an STF, some kind of submission hold, but I know that if we do it here, we're just too close to the ropes. Rather than drag by the legs or arms, if I pick up a leg and move in circles, it doesn't take a whole lot, and now we've got different space. So how much, how little you move is really up to where you are in the ring and what you want to do. But if I wanted my opponent, maybe they're close to the ropes, and I want them to actually be closer to the center with their head, so that when they sell, they've got that room to scale towards the ropes, then, a couple steps this way, turn over, and now we've got a longer distance to travel. So that's a really simple way to put it. Another way is also with takedowns. So when we take someone down, if you're standing up for me, when we take someone down, generally the best way to put them off balance and put them down in a legitimate sense is to turn them in circles. So if I was, let's say I've got a wrist lock locked on, I want to take Solomon down. So for this little wrist lock takedown, all I'm going to do is kick my right leg through, duck under. Now I've got what I call a reverse wrist lock. Instead of trying to trip Solomon backwards, like a little schoolyard trip, or drag him in different directions, if I keep everything close to my body, all I have to do is turn my body in a circle. So I'm going to use my back step just as we did before. I'm going to step back with my right leg, and all it takes is one step, and it's going to bring them down. Now, let's say you're with someone who's being a little bit more difficult, or maybe they don't know what you're doing, they're not cooperating. You might have to take a few steps, but again, we're focusing on efficiency. We're pivoting through our left foot, and we're just backstepping. We're not taking all these steps. We're not dragging our arm around. If you can keep everything nice and tight, turn in those circles, you'll be able to take someone down. Next one we're going to do, very similar, hammerlock takedown. If we come from a lockup, if I duck under, left foot forward, right foot back, rather than transition to the traditional hammerlock, I'm going to keep my arm exactly where it is. So maybe whatever this sequence calls for, maybe I want to change levels. Maybe I want to bring it to the ground. Perhaps it's the fact that whatever comes next is from a grounded position. Maybe it's just that we've been on our feet for too long. I want to mix it up. From this position here, if I lock an S grip, so I've got my right hand through already, it's going to naturally end up in that position. I lock my S grip behind the tricep. I'm going to back step with my left foot. So again, my right foot pivots. I don't want to shift both feet, I just want to shift one. So back step in a circle and bring the arm down on that 45 degree in that circle. Very easy to turn someone.